Hey, welcome to Rhonda Said. I'm Rhonda. I love saying things. I love saying things so much that I joined up with my friend Jeannie from Unfiltered 50s, and this is the second episode of Beauties and the Beat. We're Beauties and the Beat. We have got the deets. We do. We got the deets on all kinds of music. And what we do is we alternate weeks talking about different bands, artists, and genres, and maybe even places in music history. So it's going to be really exciting. I'm super excited, and this is my first episode, so please be gentle. I'm new at this. Who am I talking about? That would be great if I told you, wouldn't it? Yeah, you would totally appreciate that. We are talking about Duran Duran today. That's right. From the 80s. Yes, Duran Duran. One of the biggest bands of the 80s, actually. It influenced a lot of fashion and music and good things like that. I'm going to start off by bronzing my face with the Cheek Stars palette with the shade Hula. So Duran Duran was a part of the New Romantic New Wave movement. And what that was, the New Romantic was more puffy shirts and a lot of style over function or style over substance. And New Wave was more about the music and also some funky styles. And that was just a big part of the 80s. Duran Duran had started in 1978, and they had to start somewhere, and they started in the Rum Runner, and that was one of the hottest clubs in Birmingham in the UK at that time. They not only played there, but they worked there. They were bartenders. They were picking up glasses. They were bouncing people. They were doing whatever they could at that time to have a place to play. And the managers there really took the band under their wing and even helped them with their demo tapes. The band started with the founding members, John Taylor, who is a bassist, Nick Rhodes, a keyboard, and the band's most successful lineup also had Roger Taylor, the drummer, guitarist Andy Taylor, and lead singer Simon Le Bon. And none of the Taylors were related, but just to let you know, they were all just separate Taylors. And they almost didn't have they almost didn't have one of the guys join the band because they thought it would be like a joke. It'd be too much of a joke to have so many Taylors in a band. But, you know, they seem to work it out. And the band's name comes from the movie Barbarella, which starred Jane Fonda. And she was a hotsy-totsy, space-age lady in the future who wore fur bikinis and hung out and had a boyfriend who was an angel. All this weird stuff. And the mad scientist doctor, his name was Duran Duran, and they thought it was a really cool name and so weird and not like anything else, because all the bands at that time were like The Clash, The Kids, The This, The Damned. So they thought they would do something different and steal this name, Duran Duran. Next up, I'm going to be putting on a blush from NYX, and this is in Mocha, but this does not look like a mocha color, but I will put it on my cheeks nonetheless. So the first album Duran Duran released was in 1981, and it was in the UK, and they had a huge video hit with the song Girls on Film. And that video set the tone for all their future videos. The video was really risque, and they designed the video for playing in nightclubs while they were working. So they would be background entertainment for people that are, you know, having their pints and eating their crisps and all of that stuff that they do in pubs in England. And when they started putting it on music, like music television, which we call MTV, because it was 1981 and that's when it started, they had to censor it heavily so that you couldn't see any like boobage and things like that, because it's very sexy. A very, very sexy video that really kind of launched their career. They also decided to take a new look at making videos, because at that time, most of the videos were all just people lip syncing to their own songs. There wasn't a lot of creativity. There wasn't a lot of zhuzh. So they went to fantastic locations and had great scenery and hot chicks. And they made many movies instead of just a video. And with MTV starting out, they ended up in heavy, heavy rotation. And I'm going to be using the highlighter cookie from this palette. I love a good shine. And they were very, very successful in the UK. They didn't garner success in the US until their second album, Rio. And of course, on that album, you had songs like Rio and Hungry Like the Wolf and Save a Prayer. And those were all big, heavy rotation hits on the MTV. And we loved it here in the US of A. We loved it so much, they became our teen idols. In fact, people called them the Fab Five, you know, after the Beatles, because they were all super hot dudes dressing in cool clothes, playing awesome music, and making the sexiest videos in town. How could you not love that as a teenage girl? And as a result, the teens loved the band, but the critics panned them heavily. They were not a critic's darling for sure. Next up, I'm going to be using the Bailey Syrian collab Venice Fling, and this was in collaboration with Estate Cosmetics, and this palette is simply a stunner. It looks exactly like this. And in 1993, Duran Duran recorded their third album, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, and this was a tough one for them to make, and not coincidentally, this is Bonfire. I'm going to put it in my crease. Not coincidentally, the troubles may have been drug-related because according to Andy Taylor's memoirs, this is at a time when drug use was heavy for them, and they never really hid their drug use from people they knew, but the public didn't know until one of the bouncers at the Rum Runner decided to go public and did a big tell-all in the British tabloids and totally outed them for being the drug fiends that they were. And there was a lot of drugs going on back in the 80s. You know what I mean? The 80s. The third album, which was, of course, Seven and the Ragged Tiger, gave us hits like Union of the Snake, New Moon on Monday, and the hit that really shocked America, or shot them up to #1 really, was the Reflex. And that in part was remixed by a famous musician and engineer and songmeister Nile Rodgers. And so with that remix, they were finally able to hit #1. The 1984 release of their fourth album, Arena, had songs like Wild Boys, and at this time the band won 2 Grammys and made the cover of Rolling Stone, which is a very prestigious thing indeed. And I'm going into roller skates. It's hard to read upside down and backwards, but you know, I do my best. Touring and recording, they decided to take a much needed break. And while they did that, they had 2 separate offshoot bands. They had Power Station, which had songs like Some Like It Hot and Bang a Gong. And then there was the other one, Arcadia, which had the song Election Day. And those were both very popular and successful offshoots for the band. And the 2 bands' limited success was the only thing that brought the 5 members back together, was that they really wanted to make a mark on movie history and do the biggest thing that they did in their entire career, which is the theme to a James Bond movie, which is a high honor held only for the finest artists and musicians and bands, you know, throughout cinematic history. And they recorded A View to a Kill for that same named James Bond movie. Now I'm going to go into, it's easier if I do this, Ocean Avenue. So after the break, the band was never the same. Simon Le Bon ended up, he gets really into yacht racing. Like, how 80s and pretentious can you get? We're racing yachts, these $1 million crafts. And anyway, he was in this really bad yachting accident, and he almost lost his life. And then Roger Taylor had kind of a nervous breakdown, and he had to leave the band. And John Taylor went to rehab because he was the one with the bad drug problem. So the band was just trying to like take it easy, reform, and get their stuff together. Now I'm going to go into Puppy Love. And at this time, Duran Duran finally made it back into the studio. They had some new players with them after, you know, some of the guys left. And they recorded the Notorious album called Notorious. And they had the hit single on that album, Notorious, Notorious. And then, you know, that was like the last album that did really well for a super long time. Because they started having lots of bad press. And after, you know, they just couldn't get to the same heights they did when they did Rio. The next two albums, Big Thing and Liberty, were both disappointments. And it seemed the band might be winding down. Now it's time for some eyeliner. And I'm going to use the Stila Stay All Day Waterproof Eyeliner. And from 86 to 92, the band really didn't do anything. They had those two flop albums, and everything was on the back burner. I love this eyeliner. It is so amazing. Now we're going to get into some mascara. In 1993, they made a comeback with a self-titled album, not to be confused with the first one. They called this the Wedding Album, and it had a smash hit called Ordinary World. And it was really extraordinary that they had this hit because this was at the height of grunge, and that kind of music just wasn't gaining popularity at that time. So now I'm going to use the Marc Jacobs mascara, and I loves it so much. I love this mascara. And in 1994, they did a very poorly received, let me shake my mascara at you. They did a very poorly received cover album called Thank You, which I actually bought that album, and it wasn't that bad. And Thank You was in reference to them doing a cover of Led Zeppelin's Thank You. And they did some crazy stuff, like Simon Le Bon was trying to do some Public Enemy. I mean, it just was, it was totally out of time. This is my very favorite lipstick. This is Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink, and this is in number 80, Ruler. This is my favorite colors. But in the early 2000s, there was a reunion of the original lineup. Nobody saw that coming because they had had a pretty bad breakup, you know, with all the shenanigans going on at that time. But everybody had bygones be bygones, and they started to tour again. In 2004, they had the album Astronaut, and they were able to have a return to success, which was fantastic. And, you know, with all 5 members in the lineup, they really did just fantastic shows. And I was actually able to see them here in Louisville, and it was amazing. After their success of reuniting, Andy Taylor left again, but the band continues to perform as a 4-piece as of, you know, pre-COVID. You know, they were touring and doing great. Well, they're not as big as they were in 1983. They seem to have found success in the critical acclaim that they yearned for so many years. Duran Duran has sold over 100 million albums worldwide. And they've had over 14 chart-climbing hits and many awards, including 2 Grammys, a Hollywood Walk of Fame star, and a Lifetime Achievement Award from MTV. This has been the first episode of Beauties and the Beat. I am Rhonda. I am done saying things, and I hope you have a great day or day of your choice. And don't forget to tune in next Friday for Jeannie, her turn. That is next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thanks. Have a great day.